Good morning. We are now live. Okay. Bob, would you please read out the housekeeping notices, please?
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, members. Please note that this meeting of the Standards Committee is being recorded by the Council and will be published on the Council's website for a minimum of 6 months. Anyone who is on the call but not in the room and wishing to speak, please use the raise your hand feature and switch on your video when invited to speak. Please could members in the room only speak when invited to by the Chairman and mute your microphone when not speaking. And finally, Chairman, please ensure that background noise is kept to a minimum and that mobile phones and other devices are turned off or switched to silent for the duration of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you for turning up this morning. Appreciate it. A bit short on numbers, but at least we've got a quorum. Bob, is there any apologies this morning, please?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, we have apologies from Councillor Filer, from Councillor Jones, from Councillor Northover, and from Councillor Ricketts.
Thank you. Any substitute members?
Chairman, Councillor Ricketts has nominated Councillor David Flagg as her substitute. Councillor Flagg's here in the meeting.
Has anybody got any declarations of interest?
Yes, Chair, thank you. I think just for the clarity, item 121, which comes under the review, I will be recusing myself from taking part in that, as will Councillor Borthwick. We will both be recusing ourselves on that one, if that can be noted, please.
Okay. Agenda item.
Excuse me, Chair.
Sorry.
In view of the fact that both you and Councillor Kelsey will be recusing yourself, we can no longer consider item 121 because we'll have an issue of quorum. So can that item, in fact, regrettably be removed and postponed to the next available meeting?
Okay.
Everyone happy with that one? Yep. Thank you.
Any public issues at all? Well, no.
Chairman, there are no public questions, but we have received 2 public statements. The first statement is from Mr. McKinstry. If perhaps he'd like to come forward and sit at the end there. And if you're happy, Chairman, we'll ask Mr. McKinstry to switch on his microphone when he's ready and to read out his statement.
No problem. Okay, so statement is as follows. I was appalled on studying today's report to see councillors treating this committee almost like an afterthought. One subject councillor overlooked 3 letters from this committee, including the outcome letter, and is now introducing fresh evidence, inverted commas, 6 months down the line. In complaint 108, the councillor announced she would not be available for this committee, while in 126, the councillor used a publicly funded officer to discuss the complaint, then did not attend a related meeting. Full council on the 21st of March looks to tighten up response times to this committee. I certainly feel this will be a step in the right direction.
Thank you, Mr. McKinstry.
And Chairman, we have one further statement from Miss Sarah Boyce. She's not able to be at the meeting today, but has asked that her statements would be read out, and I'm going to do that now, Chairman. So this is the public statement from Miss Sarah Boyce. Public statement. Councillor Filer stated at a meeting of this committee last year that some councillors seem to be treating standards as a game. She pointed out too how the committee tended to deal with serious complaints only, since an initial assessment is conducted by the monitoring officer. It reflects very poorly on this council, therefore, to see how several councillors have failed to comply with sanctions imposed by this committee recently, and in the absence of any compelling new evidence, notices of non-compliance at the next council might be the best way of resolving these complaints. Thank you, Chairman. That's the end of the public issues item.
At this point, I'm going to ask Dave to chair the meeting because I've got eyesight and hearing problems this morning. I'm in the middle of a 6-week course, so it would be much better if David looks after it. Okay.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm sure we'll do this between ourselves as
Yeah.
you actually
Yeah.
are here. You have to, under the law, chair the meeting, but
Yeah.
I will ask the monitoring officer if she wishes to comment on the previous statement that was made.
So, as I advised you both before the meeting, if Councillor Borthwick is present and participating in the meeting, he does need to chair.
He does.
So I'm quite happy for Councillor Kelsey to assist you, Councillor Borthwick, but if you could continue to chair as best you can, if you are able to remain in the meeting.
Okay.
If you need to leave because you're unable to remain, that's fine. Thank you.
Right.
Move on to the next item.
Right, next item. Right, where's the agenda?
Item 5, Code of Conduct Review.
That's got that down.
You're asking Ingrid to-
Agenda item 5, Code of Conduct Complaints Review. Paras 1 to 5, this is a regular update report on the complaints received or concluded since the last meeting of the committee. Para 6 onwards, there are no complaints with requests to provide an apology following an informal solution. Ingrid, would you like to comment on that, please?
Yes, sure. I hope you all had a chance to read the update report. It's obviously not that long since the last update report, just over a week and a bit ago. But you will see from the report that many complaints have progressed to conclusion. And in fact, prior to this committee meeting, we had an informal consultation meeting where some more complaints, so there's a further update, have concluded. So the report asks the committee to consider a number of items, one of which has now been put off to the next meeting, but to note the progress of those complaints, and I've obviously just referred to those, a number of those having concluded since the last meeting, but also for the committee to determine which of the options referred to in the report should be pursued in relation to unresolved complaints identified at paragraphs 11 to 31. And so if I can refer the committee to those paragraphs, there are a number of complaints, the first being 97, Code of Conduct Complaint 97, and that was in fact considered again in light of fresh evidence presented at an informal consultation meeting with yourself, Chair, this morning, and a further determination's been made in relation to that. So I will be asking that the committee doesn't consider referring that complaint to full council in view of a fresh determination in light of fresh evidence. You'll see the next complaint is complaint 105, and I set out the details of the dates of determination and the councillor's response or lack of response. You'll see in relation to that, however, that the councillor wrote to the monitoring officer on the 8th of February indicating that he didn't agree with the determination and wanted to raise some further evidence, but to date that evidence hasn't been forthcoming. In relation to complaint 108, again there has been dialogue between the subject councillor and myself as in my capacity as deputy monitoring officer in respect of the determination, and she's repeatedly indicated that she doesn't agree with the determination and that she intends to set out reasons for her position, but as yet I haven't received any information. In relation to Code of Conduct Complaint 110, again in the report I've set out the detail of the chronology of events since the determination, and once again in that case the subject councillor has indicated that he doesn't agree with the determination and intends to provide further evidence, but again none has been forthcoming. Finally, in relation to Code of Conduct Complaint 126, this was a complaint where the subject councillor raised significant equalities issues. And so following the initial determination made at informal consultation with the chair, a meeting was arranged between the Equalities, Diversity and Inclusion Officer at the council, myself as Deputy Monitoring Officer and the chair, where the full detail of the complaint and the subject councillor's response was discussed with the EDI officer, who advised that the proposed determination, which was for a full apology to be made at full council, was reasonable, and there was nothing to prevent that, having had full regard to all of the equalities considerations. And so, having had that full discussion with the EDI officer, the chair wrote to the subject councillor setting out the determination that part of the complaint was upheld and that she should make an apology to full council. The subject councillor responded that she was or sought clarification as to whether or not full detail of the complaint and the complaint response had been provided to the EDI officer in writing, and it was confirmed that it hadn't been. She raised concern about that fact, and I responded again in my capacity as Deputy Monitoring Officer, confirming the position as set out in the Council's equalities policy and also in the Code of Conduct, that there is no requirement to disclose such info or share such information in writing, but there is obviously a requirement under equalities legislation that due regard and that the necessary regard has been given to all of the equalities matters raised, and I can confirm that that regard was given, and there was a very careful consideration of the detail of the complaint and the subject councillor's response in respect of equalities, and that really very careful consideration was given to that. And you'll see from the detail of the report that there was an offer of a meeting, but that meeting has not been arranged. And indeed, I last wrote to the subject councillor on the 1st of March, asking her to confirm whether or not she intends to provide the apology as determined appropriate in informal resolution with yourself, Chair. But as yet, I haven't received any response. So in view of those, in the report, I've set out a number of options and a detailed options appraisal, and it's recommended that the committee is asked to consider which option it considers appropriate and consider whether or not there should be a report to full council in relation to non-compliance in those specific matters.
Chair, may I add one small point to that very good introduction by my deputy, and that is just to say that if councillors were minded to ask for more detail behind these particular complaints, we would then need to go into exempt session, and councillors would need to agree to go into exempt session. You may feel that because you are so aware and informed about the background to all of these that you don't need to do that, but there is the opportunity to do that should you want to discuss more detail about these complaints. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm aware of all the details of all the 4/5 complaints which are listed in paragraph 6, I think it is, 97, 105, 108, 110, 126. And I don't think, we do need to go below the line. I do understand, obviously, David Flagg as a substitute isn't 100% up to speed, but there are three of us here, a quorum, if he wants to abstain or not get involved in the decision. And, what I would like to say is that we need to move on with this. We're getting now very close to the end of the term of office for some of these councillors who may not even be standing for election, may not be a councillor again after the 4th of May. So we do need to move on. There is one last meeting on the 21st, and I've got some other comments to say, but no, I would not want to go below the line. I want this to be a public meeting. Thank you.
Chair, I have to agree with Councillor Andrews. I think we've all seen these complaints long enough now. We've been over them on 3, 4, maybe even 5 occasions where we've gone through these at different stages of the system. And I do not think that going below the line would benefit anybody at this instance.
Anybody wishing to comment? Right.
I had some other comments to make. I've probably got a proposition or proposal to make as well. But basically, it's not fair on the residents who have been making these complaints. Some have been waiting many months for a resolution of this. And it's probably not fair on other councillors because obviously, though some names have leaked out, not all the names are in the public domain, and it's tiring all the councillors with these complaints which are sort of drifting around. And it's not fair that on the other councillors that, you know, either a letter of apology or an apology to this committee or apology to another committee or a public statement has not happened. Complaint 97, which was talked about earlier, yes, you know, as per the public question, you know, it's 5.5 months, 4 emails being ignored, and eventually, well, it's not even at the 11th hour, it's at 1 minute to midnight that a very full rebuttal comes in, which, you know, you just think to yourself, well, hold on a minute, you know, if you were that convinced that you were right and the complainee was wrong, why didn't you say it? And to say that you missed the emails, I find it's incredible. What I would say, and it may have occurred, yes, in business, lots of people send out emails, lots of people ignore emails. The phone, mobile phone calls, text messages or whatever, you know, I think certainly we need to sort of chase up these in the future and not let some councillors hide behind emails, not responding. And basically it's filibustering by these other 3 councillors coming up with reasons why they can't, not turning up for meetings, coming up with reasons why and they're promising more evidence, but it never materialises. So looking at the options in paragraph 33 of the report, do nothing, etc., etc., etc. Basically, I'm fully in support of option 4, report the position of the non-compliance to full council, but confine that to all of them which appear in paragraph 6 and exclude number 97. So I would propose that suitable reports are submitted to full council reference complaints 105, 108, 110, 126, with the proviso that obviously each of those 3 councillors be given the opportunity to make a public apology at the start of the full council meeting. And I would go to the extent that I would like them to actually write it down and put it on a piece of paper. In perchance they get delayed with a flat tire or something like that, they can't attend, flu or COVID or something like that, that public apology could be written out. And obviously later on in the agenda, this report or recommendation from Standards Committee to full council will appear. But of course, if one of the councillors has at the beginning of the meeting made their apology, then that particular item or councillor could be taken off the report, as it were. But we're running out of time to deal with these, and I think we need to draw a line under these complaints and have done with them. Thank you. So I propose a report to full council.
Chairman, I'm happy to second that, and there's not much I can add to it. I think Councillor Andrews has shot my bolt, as they say. Everything he said, I fully agree with. These complaints have been going on and on and on now. I think we need to tell these councillors, if they do not provide their own written apology as asked for under the sanctions of the standards boards, then a full report will go to full council referring that, and I think that's how we need to move on, Chairman. So if you could take that one up, please.
Anybody wish? Oh, sorry, you're over there.
No, thank you, Chairman. I just was going to give you a gentle reminder to ask the independent person if they would like to comment before you go to the vote. Yeah. Thank you.
Anyone? Yeah, sorry, David.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I'd just like to add my weight to the proposal. I think it's total disrespect for this committee and the work that the officers and this committee put in. And I think it's only right that it should be brought to full council. Thank you, Chairman.
Ian, Paul?
Can I go? The danger here is the loss of credibility in the public's eyes, not just of the Standards Committee, but of the full council, that these matters are allowed to drag on. And therefore, I totally endorse, on behalf of the public, Councillor Andrews' suggestion.
Anybody else have any comments?
I agree with what Ian was saying. Yeah, it's a disgrace that these councillors have shilly-shallied and obfuscated for this long. They're a disgrace.
Those in favour?
Mr. Chairman, can I just reinforce what I said, and perhaps it could be incorporated in the wording, that when we say a written apology, we're not saying a letter is put in the post and it arrives at your house and you read it. We want that written apology read out at full council by the councillor if they're there. If they're late, okay, the chairman can read it out on their behalf, or an officer can read it out on their behalf, but we want those apologies to be publicised and heard on YouTube in the full council. They probably can't see because the gallery's not very good, but you can hear the answers or responses. So we want those done, please. Thank you.
I agree with that, actually. So the next item, or have you got one?
I just wanted to mention, Chairman, that contained in the recommendations is also for the committee to note all the other the progress on all the other code of conduct complaints that's in the update report.
Okay.
Yeah. Are members happy to note all the other items that have been dealt with? Yeah.
If it's just noting, Chairman, yeah, happy to accept that.
Could I just ask one question, Chairman?
Yeah, it was actually reference complaint 132, which is at the bottom of page 9. Obviously, this has been in the public domain already. Councillor Anderson. It was obviously part of the resolution of Standards Committee at their previous meeting that he should also read out, or have read out for him if he unfortunately can't attend due to ill health, his apology. So hopefully that's on the chairman's briefing list. Thank you.
Chairman, if I may, yeah, I am aware that will be happening at the next full council meeting.
Chairman, if I may, before we close that item, who's going to decide who reads out the apology should the councillor not attend the meeting? So should it be the leader of the group, or should it be an officer? I personally think that it should be the leader of the group.
So, Chair, there's no fixed rule on that, but I think it would be difficult for an officer to read out that sort of thing. So, yes, I would agree with Councillor Flagg that by agreement, and I'll discuss it with the Chair of Council, that they should be read out by the relevant leader of the group. Thanks.
I know I haven't been on standards very long, but it's come to my view and my opinion that standards is very much a long, drawn-out process which needs to be speeded up. It is not fair on the public, it's not fair on the complainants, it's not fair on the complainees that it takes so long, and there is no any one person that is at fault for that. But I think I would recommend that there is a change in the way that things are done for the next term. It would be down to the officers, monitoring officers, etc., and Constitution Working Group to make a change that stops all this having to come to all these informal meetings, and that things are sorted out much quicker than that. And it would just be my opinion that we need to look at this seriously, because it does seem to be a panel that just drags on, and the councillors can, if they want to, drag some of these things out for years at a time, and that's just wrong. If a complaint is made against a councillor, it should be nipped in the bud, dealt with straight away, and people should not have to wait 6 months or so for a response to that complaint. Yeah. Marcus?
I agree with you, David. Obviously, the Constitution Working Party is an ongoing working party. Obviously, after the elections, it will have to be reconstituted and new members appointed. But I would I won't make this as a formal proposition, but it would be useful. And I know they've got lots of things of tweaking and improving of the Constitution to do, but it would be very useful, and it would help probably our wonderful ladies over there and all the work that they do reference these complaints. If one of them or both of them could put a report forward to that Constitution Working Party with some recommendations, it might necessitate perhaps a report initially to the first meeting of the new Standards Committee with some ideas, or even an informal meeting of standards for some ideas. But if we can, working within obviously the constraints of the law, improve our constitution to improve, I think, the speed basically of dealing with these complaints. That would be useful. But I appreciate, obviously there's lots of other things in the Constitution which aren't 100% okay, but hopefully we can try and get our one up towards the top of the list. Thank you.
I'd like just to recommend that we go with the previous meeting, but the meeting starts at 6 o'clock, because obviously this morning's meeting is not so successful as we'd like it to be. So we did all agree a few weeks ago that these meetings will start at 6 o'clock in the evening, and we need it because we're running out of time. Yeah. You all happy with that? Yes.
So, Chair, I'd be very happy to take those recommendations to the Constitution Review Working Group, and Ingrid and I will work on a report. The reason for us having the meeting today at an unusual time is in order to make sure we could get this matter before full council. And so this was the only available date and time, unfortunately, but it is unusual. And we do plan to revert back to our 6 o'clock meetings after this. Thank you.
Yeah. I formally close the meeting and thank you once again for your attendance. Thank you.